Hello, and welcome to episode 35 of What If Civilization Started Over. I literally just hit end episode on the last one. I literally just stopped recording the last one, and I immediately went into this next one because I have so many plans for what's going to happen in this episode and the next one, and you just better stay tuned because you're going to not want to miss it. But I'm going to mostly spend this video focusing on events outside of Europe and Africa because last episode focused entirely on Europe and Africa, but we're going to go back there at the end because it's going to set up for the next episode. First of all, in the Americas, this Bolivian country can't actually realistically control all their lands up to here, and they decide the best thing to do is to just sell it over to these countries because Brazil is kind of a pariah state in the Americas. Even England doesn't like Brazil because they're just so powerful in the region. And these three states formally create an alliance to replace the alliances of the past that have kind of stopped existing. Recreate the existence of alliances. And these guys will create the Red Alliance because officially their name is the Alliance of the American Blood. Because their official name is the Alliance of American Blood. And basically their purpose is to stop Brazil from expanding, which is something Brazil actually does want to do. And eventually they get Venezuela to join. But that is bad because now England basically said if Venezuela joins this thing, I will never join this, and I am willing to join this, and that'll basically keep Brazil in their place for sure. But Brazil would love to launch the opportunity to attack these four countries. For now, they can't, though. And meanwhile, in North America, this Mexican country is going to have a civil war as a new government in the South gains popularity. And that's where their ideology mask is, or that's where their ideology is. But these guys have a brand new ideology, not been seen before in this world, and that is communism. And the rest of the world doesn't really understand yet how big of a threat communism could pose to the current world order, so they decide to just not intervene. But these guys are a communist revolution. They want to seize the means of production and all that. They destroy the city. Who cares? They're very ruthless in their tactics. They also, as I was saying, these guys are extremely good at fighting this guerrilla warfare, and eventually one country, which is northern Mexico, will realize the threat that communism poses, and they will start aiding the communists against the they will start aiding the central Mexican government against the communists, and they will start winning as the communists are pushed back with the help of northern Mexico. One slight problem with that is that California has overlapping claims with Mexico, and with Mexico sending a lot of their troops into central Mexico, that allows for California to start an invasion, and these guys have to withdraw all of their troops. And the American country, which I'll call Florida. Okay, we're just going to say a lot of new cities have popped up in America because it's just, like, really annoying how few cities there are here. It's, like, hard to do anything. So one sec. But, yeah, Mexico has to get rid of all of their troops from these guys as the communists start blitzing their way into the central Mexican country, starting to surround their capital. And the king of the central Mexican country decides to lay down his arms, but the prime minister refuses to because they are a constitutional monarchy. And with that, all of the troops outside of the capital surrender, and the capital is under siege as the communists work on integrating that land into their territory. This is a better way of representing it since the communists should probably be the red ones, right? Anyway, the most populous region of the Americas is about to fall into the hands of communism, and the only country that realizes the impact of that can only watch, as it is currently being invaded by its two northern neighbors, as two of its most populous cities will be seized by Florida, while California works on taking out the Baja California Peninsula, which it has claims over. It actually claims the entire thing, which is kind of interesting if you think about it. But anyway, yeah, northern Mexico is kind of screwed, and what's even worse is that the communists will just take their capital city, which was completely undefended, and they claim this is in retribution for them helping the original government of their country, which is finally seized as they take the capital. and they decide to move the capital to the most populous city in the country, which is like a classic communist thing to do. That happens to be this city. And with this, the Mexican government will just completely collapse. They don't have really any control over the territory they still have, and so the communists will meet with the Americans and the Californians, and the Californians are willing to negotiate with the communists, but the Americans sort of start to realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't cooperate with the communists this much. They kind of see the communists as the next big threat to their country, and so they sort of are kind of more hostile to it. But California is basically just given pretty much all of the territory they claim. The U.S. didn't actually claim any of this territory. I keep telling Florida did not claim any of this territory they're taking. They kind of are just still invading. But the communists will be really effective at seizing the remainder of this territory. As I'm just highlighting this so I only affect Mexican territory, but the U.S. is slowly pushing back the communists from here until the communists finally decide to agree to a deal with the U.S., which I'm going to just call them the U.S. I'm not going to remember to call them Florida. The communists, some of them are really upset about this, but some of them are really excited because they finally get to set up a government that also has a lot of land in it. Obviously, the northern Mexicans aren't too thrilled, but most of their country is, like, pretty interested in the idea of communism as, like, the new way forward. Florida isn't, though, so, yeah, and California is kind of interested in communism, but they don't actually elect a communist. An official communist party does emerge in the country, so they could definitely turn communist in the future. Communism has now become a force on the world stage. In the Caribbean, these two countries will peacefully separate as the former Andalusian Caribbean, besides Cuba and Jamaica, will separate from Cuba and Jamaica. It was kind of weird to have all those islands in a single. So now Santo Domingo will be the new capital of the Dominican country. And I said I would make more cities, and I'm staying true to that because it's weird that there's no cities on Jamaica or Puerto Rico. It's also weird for these guys' alliance to be red now that communism is a thing, so let me change that. Okay, I've spent a ridiculous amount of time in the Americas. Let's go to Asia, where Belgium and Japan decide that this country in Siberia has been here for too long. And I'm not even going to show you the war where they invade this country. Actually, I am. And they decide that it deserves to be invaded. As Japan will start invading from here, while Belgium will use their Canadian colony as a way to actually invade from the Arctic Circle, which is something that hasn't actually been done before. But it actually terrifies Siberia, like the Orange Siberian country specifically, for obviously good reason, But yeah, with that tactic being used, it's probably over for this country, but this country will be stubborn and refuse to surrender, which is really annoying for everyone besides Siberia, which I'll just call them, even though the orange country is more accurately called Siberia. Speaking of them, they will also get into this, and Japan will be fully supportive of them because they think it's going to help end the war more quickly, but Belgium is annoyed because they wanted a bigger colony. And this will kind of start to create a rift between Japan and Belgium, who had been very close allies up until this point. And they'll basically just, like, spit in each other's faces in a diplomatic meeting as Japan threatens to invade the Belgian colony. They do manage to finally, once this country is destroyed, they do manage to agree on a line dividing it. But Belgium and Japan are no longer allies. China is going to try to, like, reclaim their former glory. They kind of are doing pretty well compared to, and they think that bullying this country into submission is going to do that. And this is, like, I should have been doing this significantly more often, but they're not going to take the entire country. They're going to accept a limited surrender. I think this episode's been going on for long enough. Like, I didn't realize how few countries there were in Asia, so there's not really that much to do here. I could have, like, these two countries go to war, but, like, they're kind of semi-allied with each other. It feels weird to have that happen. So I'm going to go back to Europe for a few events, because I don't really know if much else can actually happen in Asia realistically without ruining what I want to do in the future. These two countries will have their monarchs marry each other and create a personal union, which will very quickly be integrated, as they didn't really have much government outside of the monarchies. Similarly, this Russian country will elect to unite with this country democratically, And that means that these two countries are no longer countries. Also, this capital city is going to be moved back to Kyiv. I think it might have been this city originally, but whatever. This city is more Russian. As Russia declares war on Caucasia and manages to kick them out of their Ukrainian colony, which they will decide to just surrender and leave instead of continuing to fight because it's pointless. They also managed to take this little colony from Siberia, as they once again want to reclaim their former glory, as their former glory keeps getting more and more compared to what they are currently, but they keep wanting to reclaim it. Also, Estonia embarks on a project of building some more cities, because there should be more cities in this country, like, come on. Petersburg gets built as a city, which is, like, on the border between Finland and Estonia, or Scandinavia and Estonia. This land was actually never taken by Russia. It actually got seized by Caucasia, as Siberia and Caucasia are starting to hate each other, and Caucasia and Russia are starting to get on better terms with each other. And Russia then starts making threats at Belarus, and this is what's going to kind of make things go out. So I think Ireland had been very isolationist. They're slowly drifting out of their isolationism, and they will, by the end of the next episode, they're no longer going to be isolationists, but I just felt like mentioning that because I haven't talked about them in a while. Like so. Just because I felt like it needs to be a different color. There was way too much orange in the region, since orange and brown are basically the same color. But very quickly, to try and circumvent this, France is going to offer Belarus basically an alliance. And we're just going to call this the French alliance. And so you can sort of see how this is going to start to spiral, as Russia will start to seek alliances, and obviously Britain is going to be... And I know I've been calling them England, but I'm going to switch to calling them Britain because they've very much integrated Scotland at this point. Scotland's like a core part of their country. So I think it can stop calling them England at this point. But they will extend an alliance to Russia, as France and England are gearing up to go to war again. And so I'm going to have to go do another event before more countries join these alliances, because another thing is going to happen, which is basically Andalusia wants to buy the Polish and Danish colonies, because these are just completely failing, like, entirely. And they are, like, Poland and Denmark are going to go bankrupt if they try to keep holding on to these colonies, and Andalusia wants to buy them, but France also wants to buy them. And France is willing to pay more money, so they end up selling to France, which makes Andalusia really angry, and they sign an alliance with Britain, even though it's not technically the same alliance as the British alliance with Russia. For all intents and purposes, it is, like, you know. And this will push Poland and Denmark into an alliance with France. But for now, there's still no active war. So what's going to change that? The answer to that question is Belgium. As Belgium is currently a monarchy, but they're still like sort of a democracy, and their king is basically going to revive the constitutional monarchy that was there a while ago, because he kind of just doesn't want to rule. And this is going to be extremely important as everyone is watching this election. There's two candidates. One of them is a traditionalist who wants to ally with England and, you know, revert the country back to monarchy. And one of them is a more radical candidate who wants to keep the country a democracy, but, like, radically restructure the government, abolish the monarchy entirely. And so basically, this is a referendum. The king wanted to step down and become a constitutional monarch, and this is basically a referendum on, do we want to go back to monarchy, or do we want to become a full republic? And they will end up electing to become a full republic. And with that, England is no longer their ally, and they will become allies with France. And the last thing that happens, alliance-wise, before this war starts, is that Italy will join the French alliance, because they think that it'll be beneficial for them to get land out of Andalusia, as they're very bitter about that. But in the year 1914, Russia will send an ultimatum to Belarus, saying, give us some land, or else. Belarus will say no, and Russia will invade into Belarus, starting World War I. And with that, I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching, and bye.